Praise God. It's 020 Power Prayer Warriors. 020. We're going to find out why it's 020 today. In reading our scriptures here, 1 Kings chapter 14, verse 1 through chapter 15, verse 24. Acts chapter 10, we'll be reading verses 1 through 23 with also Psalms 133. Proverbs 17, 7 through 8. Hallelujah. Well, we're reading here about now the kings that are going back and forth, the tribes fighting each other and in competition, and all kinds of things are happening. This is really heavy. You know, we read this story. Jeroboam, the king, tells his wife to disguise herself and go to the prophet. And it's like, when are we going to learn that no matter what we try to hide or disguise ourselves, or that God knows? You know, God knows the heart. So he sends his wife to ask the prophet what's going to happen to his son Abijah, who's very sick. The Bible says that the prophet Ahijah was very old and he couldn't see. But God already spoke to him and said, hey, Jeroboam's wife is going to come here pretending to be someone else. And she's going to ask about her son, for he is very sick. Give her the answer I give you. Now, when you read this story, it's like when you focus on this child, an innocent child that is sick, all our hearts, we forget about our sin. We forget about all the evil we do. We forget about, all the stuff that's against God. And then we look at this innocent child and we're like, oh God, now our hearts turn toward listening to the prophet or receiving a word from God. Because two things, we recognize that only God really has the power over sin and sickness and disease. And number two, it's like, at the same token, it's like, if God is really God, let's see how he's going to treat this innocent child. It's like we're all mad and we're just going to, wait on God and test God and confront God. But we're not even going to do it in real truth and reality. So the prophet says, come in, wife of Jeroboam. She's disguised and the prophet knows exactly who she is. Why are you pretending to be someone else? You see, that's how people are in Christianity. They pretend to be somebody else. They're not being the real person that, is just been touched by God's grace and mercy. Like we're the perfect people. Nobody's perfect. The prophet just straight up tells her, I got bad news for you, man. When we get behind our pulpits and start preaching, we don't want to preach bad news. We want to preach this powerful, uplifting, encouraging, hide, ignore, cover, bypass, get to the end before you travel through the middle. We want the blessing, but we don't want to carry the cross to get there. We want to go to heaven, but we don't want to die, right? And the prophet reminds him, man, I set him up, made him king. I ripped the kingdom from David. But you made other gods, calves. You made God furious. And God says, I'm going to bring disaster on your dynasty and destroy every one of your male descendants. That prophetic word we're going to continue to read about it comes to pass. Like, we're not going to get away with sin and what we do in the dark. It's obvious because there's no power in the life of these people that are hypocrites. They're just talk. There's no real truth and revelation. It's like they're talking to you, and you ever get that sense that they're lying, man, or they're just making it up or trying to, blow it out of proportion. This prophet tells them, your members of your family, if they don't die in the city, they're going to and be eaten by dogs. They're going to die in the field, and they'll be eaten by vultures. Lord have mercy, man. And he says to the king's wife, go home, because as soon as you enter the city, the child will die, and all Israel will mourn for him. He's the only member of your family who will have a proper burial. For this child is the only good thing that the Lord, the God of Israel, sees in the entire family of Jeroboam. Now you think about that for a minute. God sees this child as the only good thing, but yet he allows that child to die. I struggled with God in my early walk with the Lord on the death of my mother. She died of acute leukemia, cancer, and I just turned against God. I hated people. I became